I'm Jonathan Gurwitz, and this is The Point, a series that focuses on the issues that move our community. Today we're visiting with Mayor Ron Nirenberg and discussing the future of San Antonio and sustainability. Welcome, Mayor.
Thanks for having me.
And let's get right to the point. We know San Antonio is going to be adding 1 million residents over the next 2 decades. How do we do that in a way that is sustainable and that maintains the quality of life that we're used to here in San Antonio?
That is really the essential question that we all have to ask ourselves. You know, we started a process to think about what kind of city do we want to be in 20 and 30 and 40 years from now during the SA 2020 process 10 years ago. How we do that is the subject of SA Tomorrow, which is the comprehensive plan. The issue of sustainability and how I define sustainability is maintaining and managing our resources, whether they're natural resources, financial resources, human capital, in a way that leaves our city a strong or stronger place in the future for the next generation, a quality community. When we do that in a comprehensive planning environment, we are talking about transportation systems, we're talking about our energy utility, we're talking about how we manage water today and into the future to ensure that we have a sustainable supply of water that's quality and affordable. We're talking about our housing system, all these different things that contribute to quality of life, and whether or not we have a great quality of life is important. That is the question that has driven the SA Tomorrow comprehensive planning activity, and that's what you're seeing policymakers implement today in City Council.
You mentioned SA Tomorrow. You were a tri-chair of that long-term planning process. Tell us a little bit about some of the recommendations that came out of that process and what kind of progress has been made on those.
Well, SA Tomorrow was an extraordinary effort because it is a comprehensive plan that was created by the citizens of San Antonio to ensure that we have a strong community for future generations as we accommodate this extraordinary growth that we're having. It has 3 components. One is a land use plan, how we can grow our community and build in a way that's sustainable. It's a multimodal transportation plan that gives us a path forward on creating a more sustainable, congestion-free transportation system for the future. And it's a sustainability plan, which gives us policy recommendations on how we can manage our resources and manage our environmental resources. Among all those plans, there's some really clear recommendations that I think should be highlighted. One of them is that we have to grow better from the inside out. For decades, San Antonio has been a sprawling community, and that has stretched the limits of our public resources in terms of things like building roads, extending our water infrastructure, extending our energy capacity, and the farther out we go, the harder it is to maintain quality of life. This is the multimodal transportation plan clearly indicates that we also have to do more than just build roads, because we are simply going to fall further into congestion if we continue to build our transportation system the way we've been doing it for decades. In fact, if we continue the status quo, the comprehensive plan shows that your average commute time will almost double in the next 2 to 3 decades. And then in terms of managing our environmental resources, just an example of one of the recommendations is we have to continue to get better at conservation of water, for instance. It recommends that we continue our efforts to use technology and also lower our per capita water consumption as we continue to build out new supplies that will help supply a generation of a population that will be almost double within the next 3 decades.
Earlier in April, you announced the ConnectSA initiative. How do transit issues tie into transportation, quality of life, and economic development?
Well, I think transportation is the link between all the things that we're doing in terms of quality of life. In order for us to keep our economy moving, we have to keep our transportation system moving. People have to be able to get from their neighborhoods to their jobs, and from their schools to their homes, and from their homes to retail and economic centers in our city to enable to enjoy the city. We know that if we don't do anything about creating a multimodal transportation plan in the city, our quality of life and our economy will suffer. So ConnectSA is meant to advocate and to communicate the message of transportation reform to our residents and to the community at large and help underscore the point that we need to do better. Status quo is no longer sustainable in terms of transportation. And this will help us feed into actually building a modern transportation system in the city of San Antonio, something that we've been working on together as a community and planning for and using data for the last 4 to 5 years.
You've been mayor for a year now. You were on city council before that, and before that you were a student of public policy issues. What's the biggest challenge facing San Antonio with regard to sustainability and the environment?
I always say that the most precious and unfortunately most scarce natural resource in a community is a active and informed citizen. Our biggest challenge, and it's a challenge nationwide, is to ensure that we have people of all ages engaged in their system of government locally in an educated and informed manner. People need to be aware, and they need to help their neighbors become aware of the issues that we're struggling with, because none of them are simple. I mean, our conversation about air quality illustrates that. In order for us to make the right decisions and hold our elected officials accountable to making the right decisions and not the political decisions, we have to all become engaged and informed about what those concerns are. That requires reading the newspaper, not relying just on Facebook for your information. That requires talking with your neighbors, some of whom may not agree with you, to understand that there's nuance in people's positions from one side of town to the other. It really just takes us getting active and engaged in our community and caring about its future for us to move forward on these really tough issues.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for joining us on this first edition of The Point.